I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the September Town Board meeting for the town of Philipstown. I can't believe it's September. Kids back to school, saw them all heading in. Committee reports, Conservation Board.
Okay, the Conservation Board was discussed at last month's meeting because it actually happened prior to we met. However, we did have a stormwater meeting on August 23rd. The Wetlands Inspector, Highway, and myself meet to discuss that. As we discussed in the past, we actually set up a responsibility matrix to be able to guide us through the year in different events that we would need to handle in order to meet certain goals that we've established for ourselves in the stormwater protection program. And basically, for the most part, we set up in the matrix to secure new training material and so forth for the Highway Department. In the month of September, they will be actually reviewing this material, and we also are purchasing stormwater decals. These are actually going to be going on drains to be able to advise people to remember that whatever you put down those drains is going to end up in our waterways. All right. Now that might seem basic to most people, but it's a reminder, and a lot of communities have done that. Cortland does, and so forth. And it's a very good thing as a final reminder to remind people that we're all in the same water systems, and we have to make sure we protect them. We had a discussion about illegal dumping issues, which obviously the MS4, just quickly, the MS4 is a multiple sewer system which mostly comprises Continental Village and a small part beyond that. And obviously to discuss any potentials that we could have in the waterways or land and so forth that could have an impact and what would we do and so forth. So that was a good discussion. We also took a look at Axe Yoke Road's issues, which have been discussed here in the past. Regarding a failed septic, and to ensure that that didn't have any kind of a negative impact on waterways which can flow down to the Cortland Lake. We had a discussion which we discussed last month, and we obviously went to the county and looked and discussed at their meeting, was the pesticide control issues on especially Fishkill Road, and some discussion about that. Obviously, remembering from last month, they had asked the Wetlands Inspector to take a look at that and provide me some of his impact as well, or feedback and possible impact, and we discussed that as well. And also, obviously, testing water quality, which we had thought about at the beginning of the year when we had tasked ourselves with certain milestones to ensure that the water quality, not only which flows from town to villages and so forth, but also what may come in from Putnam Valley, Fishkill, and Peacekill. We also probably will be setting up, as I wrote to them, and to create a special meeting to discuss for our end of it for stormwater in regards to hurricane preparation. I think we're all aware of what's happening down south, and this is an extremely active season. Maybe we would discuss that in a little while, and to be able to make sure that what we have, we can do the best we can. If our drains are cleared out and our systems are to the best we can make them, it will help mitigate any potential that we can receive. This area, of course, was devastated by Irene from heavy rainfall, so it doesn't even have to be into the high hurricane classifications, and we can certainly take steps to try to mitigate some of those. And our next conservation meeting is on September 12th.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Recreation.
Rec Commission met the week that I was away on vacation, but I did get a report from Amber. Amber reported that summer camp programs had a record number of participants this year, and the registration for fall programs began on August 7th for in-town residents and August 14th for non-residents. The Castle to River Run will be held on Sunday, October 1st, which is the Friends of Philipstown Rec. You can register at active.com or at the rec department. The commission also discussed a training program for recreation coaches and a background check as well. They did make a presentation to us last night, and I guess we'll discuss it at some point later in the meeting. So, the next meeting scheduled for the rec department rec commission is for September 26th.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Putnam Coalition that Cares.
The coalition held a really successful, sweet candlelight vigil on August 31st in recognition of Overdose Awareness Day. It was something that was held nationally. I know Mayapack held a vigil, and people across the country held these candlelight vigils. Ours was quite special. A lot of people attended, most of families of those who have lost someone to an overdose. We were really fortunate to have David Gerber of our own St. Christopher's Inn as the guest speaker, and the St. Christopher's Choir sang a couple of songs, and Kathleen Pemble, who lost her son, wrote a beautiful, heartfelt song that included, much of the scenes from the Hudson Valley in our town and the kids around her son's age who were lost. I was asked to speak on government initiatives and things on the federal, state, and local level, and I decided as I looked out at the audience that, it was just the only thing I could speak to was the people that were there and the power of the community getting together to recognize, this issue. And I just want to thank everybody involved, and hats off to the coalition who is working hard. And if you want to get involved, please feel free to. You can contact me. You can see Philipstown Cares Coalition on Facebook, or find someone that's involved. I know they're hosting a Narcan training coming up, and they meet monthly. And it's a great way to get involved and to just lend a hand to help combat this crisis. Thanks.
Thank you for all your work with that. There's a lot of important work going on there with the group.
Yeah, I attended that. There's quite a few people there. And while you mentioned Narcan, we had a Narcan training at the North Highlands Firehouse last week as well.
Great.
For
Now, was that
members.
with the firemen?
That was with the,
did it?
yeah,
Yes.
well,
And
yes.
they were trained.
And it's
That's.
on the trucks.
Yeah,
Trucks
we'll
and
keep
in
it
the
on the truck.
Thank you for doing that. Thanks.
That's great. Planning board.
Planning board, okay, I attended the planning board meeting on August 17th, 7:30, the old VFW Hall. Had a pretty full agenda. There was a public hearing for Mantoga Properties, which is the old Plumbush, which is now a school. They are seeking went through the revised site plan and reviewed. It's a 5.26 acre parcel, which includes a 2,600 square foot building they're going to put on, which will be used as a gymnasium. They're also adding a 770 square foot building as well, in addition to the existing building that will be used for a classroom. So that was a public hearing. There was no public comment whatsoever, but the planning board members did have a couple questions about the parking lot overflow, and that was addressed by Glenn Watson, and everyone was pleased with his answers. So the public hearing was closed on that. The second thing on the agenda was the return of escrow to Jarrett Della Villa, 17 Round Road. I see that's on our agenda as well. Third on the agenda was Rockwell Presquette. They've been in the planning board for several months now. They had a public hearing last month, but they went through the revised site plan as well, and everything was approved, and a negative seeker declaration was adopted, so that they'll be moving forward with that as well. Just so everyone know, that's going to be like a 2-year project down there in Garrison on Old West Point Road. Also on the agenda was 1657 Route 9D, the old Patterson Estate, which is now owned by Chris Buck. Last month we had a walk through there, a site visit. They went through. Glenn Watson presented to renovate the plans. They're going to be in addition to the existing building that's there, as well as a pool, a new pool house, and a garage, and also they're going to be changing the entrance from off of 9D off of Gilboa Road. So that was referred to the zoning board and also referred to the Putnam County Planning Board as well. So they have a lot more work to get done before they could really come back to our planning board. Next on the agenda was Martin McEwen, 200 Lake Surprise Road. This is a proposed subdivision between family members. Basically, it's what's going to come down to is going to be a lot line adjustment. That was also referred to the zoning board and the planning board as well for Putnam County. Last on the agenda was Hudson Highland Reserve. I've been talking about them for quite some time now, probably over a year. Just so everyone knows, they did finish, as I indicated last month, the EAF Part 2 has been completed and it's been accepted. So right now they're going to be moving on to EAF Part 3. They're hoping to get it done this month, but they couldn't guarantee that's going to happen. There's still a little bit question about the amount of lots, the yield versus density plan. I know people reported there's going to be 25. That's I'm not, from what I understand, it still hasn't been determined exactly the number, how many lots it's gonna be. It's gonna be between 22 to 24. That's it. The meeting was adjourned at 8:30. Next meeting will be September 21st, 7:30, Old VFW Hall.
Thank you, Bob. Zoning.
Zoning did not meet in August. They're meeting on Monday, September 11th, to discuss a few cell towers. So, full agenda.
Yeah.
7:30 here.
Oh, boy. Okay, thank you. Highway.
Highway. I have my report for highway. What's that? Philipstown board members, Carl Frazenda, Highway Superintendent, work performed by the Philipstown Highway Department for the month of August. Road wedging was done this month by the highway crew to prepare those roads which are scheduled to be paved. Unfortunately, the timing for paving has been pushed back to September due to Gorman Brothers' scheduling issue. Because of early spring and summer rains, all scheduling was pushed back. Residents will be notified in advance when paving is to occur. The crew continued maintenance work on all roads with curbing, clearing waterways, grading, filling potholes, and blacktop patching. The Avery Road Bridge and guardrail installation is totally complete. The road is open. Road permits for the from the DEC have still not been received in order for the work to begin on Manitou Station Road. The department's budgeted international truck and plow has arrived and is now part of the fleet. The department received approximately 40 phone calls regarding road complaints and issues for the month of August, and the highway department spent $8,700 in August for maintenance, vehicle maintenance. Carl Frazenda, Highway Superintendent.
Thank you. Just so people don't get overly excited, any paving we're talking about is on existing paved roads. When they talk about wedging, they talk about filling in declivities and potholes, things like that. So don't get your shorts in a twist. I met with Carl up at Highway also to talk about the building and siting, and they have several proposals, and we're going to have to meet with him to make a decision on that. We're also looking at the garage because something has to happen with the garage up there. It's gone.
It's a 30-year building that's going on 60.
Yeah. I mean, they need some help up there with that. It's an eyesore too. So, but they have several proposals. He's going to get a proposal on the building, on the garage also. So.
Do you want some sort of report on the annex? I could do
Sure.
it. So the annex is, all the mechanicals are in, the plumbing, electrical are complete. The insulation went in yesterday and today. They were supposed to load the sheetrock in, but I was in there early this morning and I haven't seen it yet. The outside is pretty much complete. The new parking lot has been graded with the handicap entrance on the American Legion side. And it's pretty much on schedule from what it looks like. We have a couple things to approve tonight to keep it moving, so.
Yeah, we're talking about the annex, the building in back of Town Hall. That's what we're talking about. But Mike Miley and his crew are doing a beautiful job there. The outside is outstanding, and
Mike is going above and beyond in a lot of stuff.
yeah,
I
I mean, a lot of things. Yeah, you're not kidding. So the building looks terrific. It's going to be a great addition for the building department, and then we'll be getting to this building.
I just have to ask, because we were on highway and, talking about things down the road that are going to be needed. I mean, are we ever ready to have a conversation about consolidation with the Cold Spring Highway Department? Are we ready to approach that again? Is it something we'd consider?
Always open. Yeah, oh, sure.
Being
I
that
think it's a great idea.
There are incentives, to look at it,
Great
to
idea.
implement it. So I can look at those Department of State incentives.
Sure.
If you'd like.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think it's.
Because if we're looking to revamp the place, it might as well, it seems like a good time to approach that again.
True, and I mean, that could lead to an economy of scale in purchasing. We're not talking about getting rid of any positions at that point. Sure. You still need the people to work that geographic area.
I mean,
But
it doesn't always
definitely
have
could
to
work.
be, I know consolidation in the word is the word, and it's a scary word, but there's also the shared service, but which we already do.
Yeah.
But it could be shared property.
Right, and also looking at the Village Highway campus, I just don't see that as the highest and best use for that property. It's a beautiful waterfront piece of property that, they could Could do a lot with. Maybe we can have a joint town hall there.
Be a nice campus, municipal campus overlooking the river. No,
Or something.
no.
The Town and Village Board Retirement Center. All right, well, thank you. That'd be great. So that covers building and land acquisition. Thanks to Mike Malione and his crew. They really are doing a great job. Putnam County Legislator.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
The legislature had a proclamation that we spoke about this month. It's National Recovery Month, which kind of fits in with what Nancy was saying, raising awareness about the problems that we're having with drug abuse. It's hard to believe that there are 23 million Americans in recovery today. That just gives you an idea of what we're going through. Recovery Month observance continues to work to improve the lives of these affected by mental and/or substance use disorders by raising awareness of these diseases and educating communities about prevention, treatment, and recovery resources. And that's exactly what we've been doing all over, the town, Coalition That Cares, the Narcan training. I believe we're stepping up and we're doing as much as we can. There's still more to do, and we'll find things to do as we move along on this terrible road. But raising awareness is the utmost importance. We have people like the Communities That Care Coalition in the county, in each town, I think, almost every town has one now. They're in the schools with the SROs. They're educating the kids on the dangers. So it's a good thing, and we have to keep going down that path. Being chairwoman of health, I'm able to bring forth a lot of things that are in this vein. The synthetic drug use. I've been told by the sheriff numerous times that we don't have that problem yet in Putnam, but we always have to be prepared that it's coming down the pike. Synthetic drugs, they're on the market. Synthetic marijuana, spice, K2, synthetic stimulants, bath salts. So I proposed a law banning synthetic drugs. Although we've been struggling on how to craft this law because they change the chemistry of these substances so often because they're trying to avoid laws. Westchester has recently come out with a law that's pretty broad. So our law department is looking at their law, and hopefully we can craft one in the next few months and ban that as well. Why wait till it gets here? Let's be proactive. Another initiative I was working on until the state interceded, medication take-back days and boxes. We know how successful they've been. We have 8 boxes around the county, plus Putnam Hospital does a pickup, does a day that is huge. We've taken in tons of medication. But I felt that, when you go to a pharmacy and you buy prescription drugs, you should be able to take them back to the pharmacy when they're either outdated or no longer needed. But the pharmacies have been reluctant to do that because there is a cost to it. There are pharmacies in the state. Walgreens has 500 stores that take back medication. I've spoken to pharmacies in the Bronx and in Long Island that also do it because they think it's the best thing, they should do it. So we were crafting a law to mandate that pharmacies in Putnam take back medication, but we were having problems. We were worried that the pharmacies would pass along the cost to the consumer, and that's the last thing we wanted to do. So we were battling it back and forth, but the state and the Senate decided to take it on their own, and they passed a law. Well, it's not signed yet, that in the next year, it's going to be a mandate that pharmacies have to take back medication. I think with that and all our prescription boxes, it's really going to make a big impact. So I was happy to hear about that. I'd also like to mention Senator Murphy's legislation earlier this year imposing a 7-day rule for prescriptions of opioids. If you injure your shoulder or you have an accident and you need these painkillers, there's a 7-day rule. You have enough to get you through 7 days. After that, you have to go back to the doctor and get reapplied. I think this would, people were going home with 30-day supply of opioids, which was causing a problem, as we all know. So this was a great initiative by Senator Murphy, who also, as you know, Senator Gillibrand has taken this to the federal level. So this is good legislation, really good. I attended a press conference 4 weeks ago that Senator Serino and Dee Dee Barrett from, I think she's from Ulster County or Dutchess County. They passed a bill that seeks to safeguard the Hudson by bolstering the state's ability to exercise jurisdiction over the river. Now, we've all sent supporting resolutions to oppose the Coast Guard's parking of these mass miles of barges on the river. But it's time that the state took over a little bit more. We should be able to say what goes in our river and what goes up and down our river. And it's important that these bills were passed really well through the state and the Senate. Overwhelming majority signed these bills, but it still hasn't reached the governor's desk. So we sent a resolution urging the governor to sign this bill. This is great legislation. Besides that, I just wanted to let you know that the flu season is coming, and the health department is going to have its first clinic on Monday, September 25th at the Carmel Fire Department on Route 52. The second is on our own fire department in Garrison on October 18th. And the third is Monday, October 23rd at the Carmel Fire Department again. So this is, get your shot. It's going to be a bad one, they say this year, but they say that every year. But it's really good to get your shots. Yeah, really.
You don't want it.
No, you don't want the flu, that's for sure. Breakneck. Do we dare go there? I wrote to Senator Serino and to Assemblywoman Galliff to please come and help. We need your input. This is your district. Let's get together again. I've had several meetings. Richard, you've been there. Nancy, you've been there. It doesn't seem, we can't find a solution to this. Unfortunately, this is a beautiful spot that we live in, and people want to come. And Breakneck is a mess. The mountain is a mess. The Route 90 corridor is a mess. I don't know what the solution is. We have the Washburn lot open, and that's a good thing. The state is planning to do more parking on the other side of the tunnel in the next couple of years, but we need it now. We need some answers now. So 1:30 here at Town Hall on the 18th or the 19th, right, Richard?
Yes.
And I also invited the new Commissioner of Emergency Services, Ken Clare. Tony Sutton has retired. We'll miss him greatly. But Ken Clare is a good guy, and he's on board already, and he'll be here too. The sheriff will be here. So let's see if we can find even a small remedy would help to move forward.
Do you know if Senator Serino is going to attend that meeting?
Yes, she is.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Well, along those lines, referring to the Washburn lot, that was started with a grant that I wrote and got, and then the state matched 2-1. So that was a state and local initiative. So that is open. They're going to finish up the landscaping. It's open for parking now. There's 47 spots in there. People are still parking on the road, but now Parks has come down and put no parking signs in front of the lot. I had a meeting yesterday with DOT and the park police about signing it from the Washburn lot all the way to Cornish's, both sides of the road as no parking. So DOT agreed to that. They're going to come in and sign that road in the coming next 2 weeks.
Good.
So that'll help a lot for our end of things.
Yeah.
Breakneck is going to be closed as of January 1. They're going to close down the entrance to the mountain. They're going to post somebody on top during hiking season, so you won't be able to go up from the front and you won't be able to come down from the Cornish side until they get a handle on things there, do some trail restoration, finish the parking area. That'll be closed until the parking and the connector are done. They're not going to stop the train there anymore, so nobody will be getting off.
They're not going to start the...
Nope, Metro North has agreed
They
to...
were just advertising the stops.
Well, they're
this
advertising
week.
it now, but as of January 1, they will
January
no
1.
longer be stopping the train at Breakneck
Who
until...
would want to be hiking January 1 on that mountain? I don't
me,
know.
but But at any rate, they won't be stopping there during the construction time because it'll be too much of a hazard. The whole area is going to be closed. There'll be no parking, no nothing going on there. And they have a plan to educate people to try to disperse them into the other 60 or 70 square miles of parkland and trails.
Well, we
So they're
have-
going to get a park and ride out on the Taconic for people coming up. They're going to try to get another source of rides from the train station to get people out into the park so they're not just congregating here.
We
So-
met with Linda Cooper and Vinnie Tamanya about doing the trolley,
Yeah, right.
to take
Yeah,
them
the
out to
trolley, I know, is making additional
Canopus. And we'll start that in the spring with a really good campaign to get people, we have other hikes that are just as nice, although Anthony's Nose is starting to be problematic also.
Yeah.
So, they're coming, and I can't blame them for coming. It's
Tuesday,
beautiful.
During those thunder and lightning storms, the fire departments and the ambulance
Yeah.
were on the other side towards Lake Valhalla for 5 hours searching for two lost, not
Yep.
lost, they said they were ill. They found
Vertigo.
Yeah, they finally found them, got them out of the woods, and then they refused the ambulance. They didn't-
And they had trouble finding them because they didn't call out. They walked by them twice.
Right, and they had GPS coordinates. It was
Yeah.
thundering. I mean, it was crazy.
I mean,
And
it's
they-
crazy. It's nuts.
And they refused medical
Yeah,
care.
I feel bad for our emergency responders, what they
it's-
have to go through.
Yep,
So,
that's crazy.
we'll see.
Oops. What day was that, the 19th or 18th, you said?
The
meeting.
19th.
The 19th.
The 19th.
1:30.
So the one thing that we do need more of is park police.
Yeah.
And if
And
if
yes-
Senator Serino could take that on as an initiative at the state level, that would be really helpful. So hopefully on the 19th, when we meet with her,
Yeah,
we can get, some more park police, because there are 8 park policemen for the 4 counties: Westchester, Putnam, Dutchess,
know.
Columbia. I don't know how many square miles it is, but at any given time, there are only 4 officers on.
I'd like
They
to know how
can't.
many are in Bear Mountain.
27.
I was going to say, because you go to an event at Bear Mountain, there is
27 officers from
police
the
on top of
Palisades
parks.
Interstate
that's
Park Commission.
unfair.
At Bear Mountain. You don't see anybody parking on the roads at Bear Mountain. And that whole corridor, all the way up through Perkins Drive, it doesn't happen, because if it happens, they ticket you, they tow you. Here, they can't. These guys, their mandate is to work within the park, not to be
Yeah.
handing out tickets. They have other things they
And
have
I've
to do.
spoken to Linda about putting more people on, and she just doesn't have the funding. So
No, she
maybe
doesn't, but
Serino.
the funding needs to be made available.
Yeah.
Because.
So that's where they can come in.
Right. This area is, actively inviting more people. The parks are actively inviting more people, so they need to step it up with infrastructure and with administrative actions like
Definitely.
more police officers. So I know that the policemen are just frustrated. They can't be all over.
Oh, no, they're great guys. They
If
do
you have
their
to cover
best.
Westchester County
Yeah.
with 1 park policeman, and all of Putnam with 1 park policeman, all of Columbia, Dutchess,
It's crazy.
there's a lot of parks, so. There's a lot of frustration there. They need to at least double the staff of police officers
I
they
would think
have.
so, at least.
Why can they have 27 over in PIP and over here in a confined area? We have 8 for, I don't know how many square miles it could be. I mean, it is a lot, yeah, because Dutchess County is huge. All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll be here on the 19th. Cemetery Committee.
Okay, the Cemetery Committee report was given in an August meeting when they met. However, I did attend the county cemetery committee meeting. We had an attorney as a guest, and again, discussed the 5013C possibility. We're similar to what we are trying to do in the town cemetery committee. We are taking a look at abilities for private funding. The town is very generous with the amounts of money we get, and I think if you take a look at the 2 village cemeteries, you can clearly see that money is being used to good use. But we need, in order to do some larger restorations, we need actually funding from private sources. So that was very educational. One of the particular members who has some experience also with the 5013C will actually look at it. There is some discussion possibly to broaden the Putnam County Committee, because it really isn't connected to the county, so it's more of a private group, which could change the name to Hudson Valley and so forth, to possibly bring in Westchester, Dutchess, or other areas which might actually create more interest and therefore create hopefully more dollars. So that discussion has started, and the hope is that that information we learned from that end could also help us regarding the town itself. As you see, too, we started restorations in the Cedar Street Cemetery. We also going to start very shortly continuing those restorations in there. They obviously began the road leading back. Prior to that, I had made sure that none of the areas that would be too close to any of the cemetery graves themselves, and had a discussion with that, and that's being monitored. If you're wondering if that's being watched, the answer is yes. All right. And we hope to continue with that, and our next meeting will be September 12th.
All right, thanks. I don't think Mike gets enough credit for all the work he does on this and carrying on in the footsteps of Betty Budney, who made it her mission to take care of our cemeteries. Respecting our past is really critical, and I really want to thank Mike for the work on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Agenda.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is an honorary resolution for the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps.
All right. All right, Eric. Good. Alan. Thanks. See you guys. Spin this around. I hope you approve that. I did. All right, I'd like to read the proclamation now. Whereas members of the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps selflessly give of their time to save lives of others and to ensure the safety and well-being of our community. And whereas the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps is to be commended by the town of Philipstown for receiving the 2017 Putnam EMS Council Agency of the Year Award. And whereas throughout the nation our citizens depend upon emergency services and those who have committed themselves to delivering pre-hospital care, and the many distinguished members of the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps have answered the call, demonstrated their dedication to the role as EMS volunteers, and tirelessly sought to strengthen and improve our community. Whereas the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps has led the way in providing the best patient care, which is essential to the protection and safety of the people of the community. They've assumed greater responsibilities, met new obstacles, and faced growing threats, and through all of the adversity they continue to perform at the highest level of service. Now therefore be it resolved that the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps be recognized and congratulated for receiving the Putnam EMS Council 2017 EMS Agency of the Year Award for years of commitments to protecting the lives of families, friends, and neighbors throughout Philipstown. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I will say, I really can't say enough. When you hear the sirens go off at night, and I've said this many times, most of us roll back over, go to sleep. Well, these guys are out there, and they serve the community well. And, I've had my own experiences. I've taken the ride, and, you do get excellent care from these guys. So I do want to offer a heartfelt thanks.
Appreciate the
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to mention something about the award. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. It's a Putnam EMS Council Award that really comes from the state. Applications for the Achievement Award is based on a pattern of activities that have culminated in a significant improvement of emergency medical service in the community. Applications for team heroism were based on a single or unusual event, and I can go on and give you the criteria for the award just to show you. This is the state criteria, just to show you, what a prestigious award it is. And I'm honored that these guys got the award through the Putnam EMS Council, and it's based on their performance, and they've had a lot of Narcan saves, and just they really continue to improve their service with the top-notch equipment and training. So thank you.
Again, I think that's worth another round of applause. Thanks a lot. Tina, would you mind if we switch the agenda up just a little bit, since we
We need a resolution.
All right. Could I get a motion moving item 11 up to?
No.
For the award. Sorry. I thought you- Could I get a motion on the honorary resolution for the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Congratulations again.
Thank you, guys. Thanks again.
That's right. We don't just hand them out. We got to actually act on them. All right, we're going to move item 11 up. Since we just have a lot of resolutions, I'd like to get to the substance here for the cell tower discussion. So, yes, yeah, come on up. I don't want to torture you with the rest of the meeting.
It's okay. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Frances O'Neill, and I live in Nelsonville. And I'm also the chair of the committee to save the Cold Spring Cemetery, a community group opposing the construction of a cell phone tower overlooking the beautiful and historic Cold Spring Cemetery. On behalf of the community, I would first like to express thanks to the board, and in particular to Councilman Mike Leonard for the outstanding job of restoring God's Acre in the Nelsonville cemeteries. Thank you again. We now need your help to preserve the Cold Spring Cemetery. As many of you know, the Cold Spring Cemetery is the final resting place of Emily and Washington Roebling, the builders of the Brooklyn Bridge, Robert Parrott, inventor of the Parrott gun, which helped the Union win the Civil War, Governor Kimball, who established the West Point Foundry, and Julia James Butterfield, wife of General Daniel Butterfield, Civil War hero, Medal of Honor recipient, and author of the hymn Taps. Julia Butterfield was a prominent citizen of this community and endowed the local library and hospital. The tower will be sited almost directly overlooking her mausoleum. This cell phone tower would be an invasion of these hallowed grounds and an insult to our community. The Philipstown Board should also be aware that federal regulations preempt local municipal code, and the FCC allows only 150 days to approve or deny this application. Therefore, Nelsonville and our entire community is under time pressure. Homeland Towers claims that they had pursued a site to place the tower on Philipstown Highway Department's garage property.
That's patently untrue.
I have a letter which I will show the board shortly. According to their filings, Philipstown was unresponsive, and Homeland Towers concluded that Philipstown had no interest. You should be aware that Nelsonville is going to offer to Homeland Towers alternative sites located on village property. By locating the site on public property, the financial benefits would accrue to the community rather than an individual property owner. The reason I'm here tonight is that I have been advised by legal counsel that any decision to use the town property must be made by the entire board. And I asked the board this evening to contact Homeland Towers as soon as possible to consider the town garage as alternative site. Siting the tower at the garage would be preferable to the cemetery location, and the town could realize approximately $60,000 a year in additional revenues. Recently, the board also has declared the town a climate-smart community. The proposed cell phone site overlooking the cemetery would require removal of almost 50 trees, resulting in an ugly scar in the landscape, and it added 1 ton of carbon dioxide to our atmosphere each year. Our committee urges the board to act quickly to support opposition to the desecration of a historic and beautiful cemetery. Thank you. I also have a list of some 70 names at this point, and there's an additional over 30 names, which would bring it over 100 of a petition signed. I'll get the other names to you, and I also have a copy, which is public record of Homeland Securities, of what they have said.
So, in response to this Homeland Tower thing, I had a meeting with Homeland Tower and the over another tower in town, and sat with them for probably an hour and a half. We talked about alternative siting for the tower that's proposed out by Vineyard Road, and we're looking at the former landfill. We had a discussion of this maybe 2 years ago. At the time, people said no, they did not want it there. We said, well, it's just going to move across the street. If you don't, it's coming, or they're going to propose it across the street. None of this is a fait accompli. Just because the FCC says so doesn't make it so. There are options for blocking these things. But we had a meeting about that. During that hour and a half time, neither this tower nor alternative siting came up. So
Well,
it's very peculiar that they.
it
At
may
any
be
rate,
very
I'm not going to revisit that at this point.
I'm wondering if there's a confusion because because when we were discussing the landfill site 2 years ago, there is highway equipment stored there, whether
Right.
Homeland has that confused with this.
Because that's where we met. We met twice. We met with Homeland out at the landfill. I met with them here, and never did they put forth the idea that they would put it at the highway department. With regard to the highway department, we don't have a lot of property there. I mean, we can take a look at it, but behind the current salt shed, we only have about 30 feet off the property line. So,
Okay.
if this is a monopole, the potential's there. Is that a great spot for it? I mean, the cemetery is an absolute non-starter in my mind. It's just it's a terrible idea. I mean, how someone could even propose that, and how the person who's the caretaker and supposed to be the overseer of the cemetery could allow that to happen on property that he owns is sort of beyond me also. But what I would say is we would support the effort fully
Okay.
to block this, because
Okay.
it should not happen at the Cold Spring Cemetery.
Well,
It's abhorrent. It's a terrible idea. You couldn't. I mean, unless you were putting on the church lawn, you couldn't pick a worse spot. You have this bucolic setting
have to
where, as
agree
you
with
said, there are historic graves. There's just my entire family is buried in the Cold Spring Cemetery. The last thing anyone wants to see when they go into a cemetery is this tower overlooking things. So we would strongly support that. I think that we should look to, pooling our resources. We have an attorney who's been working on these issues. There are avenues for,
Okay, I
Litigating
understand,
these.
and I appreciate all the board can do, because it's just an inappropriate place to have it above
No- no
the
one
cemetery. However, according to the paperwork that was submitted, which is for public information, they specifically...
So are you looking to partner with us now?
You'll have to speak to the mayor on that one.
Right, but I'm saying,
I'm
are
speaking
you
as the
heading up? Are you
committee.
heading up a group?
I'm heading up as a committee
Yes.
to stop it from being over the cemetery.
Right. So you are.
The
So
mayor of Nelsonville...
You'd like to work with us. Then.
Sure, I would. But the mayor
Yes.
of Nelsonville is also working with Homeland. He has a meeting next week, I believe, to meet with them
Right.
to find alternative sites.
Right.
And according to the paperwork that was submitted, the Homeland Tower specifically says, and gives the date, Town DPW at 50 Fishkill Road. Now, I know that, I believe it was open space, deeded some of the property there for the salt shed.
Yes.
And perhaps they may be willing to work with the community if it's not a sufficient amount. But according to the paperwork here, Homeland Towers absolutely considered that particular spot by the
paperwork was
garage.
probably sent to the highway garage at that
I don't
location.
know. I'll
because-
be
and
happy
also,
to read
I
it.
will
It
say,
says that-
say that I do know that the mayor called the highway department to talk to the.
He also, I believe a call was also placed to you today, but as far as Homeland Towers, it specifically says that the Philipstown Board, I'll be happy to read it to you. It was a preliminary determined to be suitable for further investigation, meaning the highway department, if it was made available. I left several messages with the supervisor, did not receive a response. I then followed up via email, September 22nd, October 6th, October 10th. I received
Don't you
a
find this
response.
peculiar that we had a face-to-face meeting with them and none of this came up?
I wasn't there to the
I find-
face-to-face. I am,
I was there, man. But if,
Last September?
this is dating back from 2014 to 2015. So I know that
I
they
met
had
with them
met.
subsequent to that.
Well, it's not in this particular
I'm trying to
information.
understand.
They met with Nelsonville
I'd like
on
to understand
February.
what this has to do with the proposed tower. Is this
Well, I'm asking you for help to stop it from being built overlooking the
But
cemetery.
What this documentation shows is that we showed no interest in.
It shows that you show no interest. If you're telling me that there's interest, that's another way to stop what Homeland Towers is saying ultimately. There were no other sites available.
And having sat
So-
down and met with them,
Well,
never broached
I-
the subject.
The point is,
I have never heard the highway garage used or mentioned by
I'm
anybody
just-
for a location of a tower.
Okay.
We did meet on several occasions. We met here, we met at the landfill to place a tower somewhere at the landfill.
Right. I
And then
knew
we
about
had
the
such
landfill.
public opposition here that we just all started saying it's not worth the
okay, well, if this
aggravation.
is incorrect, that's another reason. Perhaps you could write a letter to Homeland Towers, say they never approached you on
We're in
this.
constant contact with Homeland Tower. Our attorney right
Well,
now is negotiating the potential to put the cell tower from Vineyard Road on the former landfill again, seeing that it could be preferable to having it over people's residences. But during this whole time of meeting with them multiple times in town hall with our attorneys, with their attorney, never broached the subject.
Well, I'm just telling you
We're
what
not
I
gonna-
found.
Well-
I got all the paperwork from the information. I filed the
From
Freedom of
where?
Information Act.
From our town or from
No, from
Homeland?
Nelsonville, and this letter was included. I gave Tina
If we're
a
going to
copy.
go with Homeland's word, and we're going to allow Homeland to guide this group against the Philipstown Town Board, we're not going to get anywhere.
That's what I'm wondering. Are
We
you
need to-
looking to work with us?
we
or are
need
you
to work
looking
to-
looking to
berate
work
us
with
for
you,
not
but the
responding to
point of the
Homeland?
matter is, if the board can show that they were never approached on offering any other spots, then that injures the ability of Nelsonville or the ability of Homeland Towers to go forward. What they're saying is that there are no other spots throughout the community. Now, I took a GPS and went all around, and the proposed site at the cemetery is actually lower. The footage is lower than where some of the other areas around town that possibly it can be placed. Also, they claim that Butterfield Hospital had an antenna, which is no longer there, obviously, but that can also be something that could be used instead of a tower itself. All I'm saying is that we're asking the board to help us in this endeavor to stop the tower over the Cold Spring Cemetery, and if, according to this, I can only go by what I've read here, that if the Philipstown Board was approached for the highway garage on Fishkill Road, we would appreciate it perhaps to revisit that and to have a tower put there. I mean,
I just am finding this, again, peculiar, that you keep citing this document and not listening to what I'm saying
I
about
am listening
having
to what
met
you're
with
saying.
them in a person on multiple
so
occasions.
you're saying that this is incorrect. I'll agree with you. If it's incorrect, that's fine. But we're asking help to try
Well,
to
we would
help
gladly help you, but
Nelsonville to find another spot to set up a tower.
Right.
So the more places that are available to set up a tower, the better it is. We
Right.
can stop the tower from being on the cemetery. Do we need a tower here? There's no question. We probably can use extra cell phone service for all sorts of reasons, but it does not belong there. It belongs on a commercial piece of property, not in someone's backyard looking over the cemetery.
We would be happy to help. It's right now, it's difficult to be approached with your asking for help, with
Well,
up against the wall, Homeland Towers said you did this. We didn't do that.
Well,
We're
I'm
happy
just
to help.
saying to you
We don't,
that
I don't care what that says. I don't care what Homeland says, what we said or did, or they couldn't get in touch with us.
Well, I've also
They didn't
been-
try hard enough. We never talked to them about that site. If you would like to go with what Homeland says and you want to work with them without us, we'll have to live with that.
That's
Right
not-
now, if
that
we
is
can
not
work,
what I'm
if we
saying.
can work together as a community to address this issue that has a great impact on everybody who lives here, we need to work together without Homeland's input about what he said, she said.
I understand that, but all I can go, do I know what the board did here if they met with them? I'm telling you what I read. I know Nelsonville was approached back in 2016.
All right,
and
we're
the
going to move
planning
on
board.
from this since it just seems
I-
like, I'm just finding it curious. If you want to work with us, then this needs to be a collaborative effort. I feel like this is a little accusatory at this
Well,
point.
it isn't accusatory.
Well,
It's
I feel
asking
that way,
for-
so-
It's asking for help.
Well,
and-
we are offering our help, so let's
Okay.
stop now
Well,
before
then
we.
you'll need to make a phone call to the Nelsonville Village offices.
Yes.
And they've tried to reach out to you to try to get
Today.
cooperation here, and there has not been a call as of this point.
You called today.
He called today, and
Good,
he's also
okay,
called
well,
in the past about
I'll-
other
I'll
things. And
call him back again. Yeah, I also was entirely assaulted, as was the board, by the mayor, so there may have been some sour feelings there, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we
Well, for
have
one,
to
I
go
can tell you,
beyond
I
that.
certainly would not support a tower, and I will oppose the tower
Yes.
over the Cold Spring
Okay, I
Cemetery.
appreciate
I
that, and
think
that's what
a
we're
common
trying to
feeling
do.
It
across
is.
the board.
I think
Oppose
that's-
the
If
tower
we took a
over the
vote right now,
cemetery.
it would be unanimous.
We have to work together. There are federal guidelines, as you
Well-
know, federal rule preempts local regarding these issues, so we have to be very careful. We can't treat this as a standalone zoning issue, as something that we're not addressing with other, like, issues regarding zoning.
I
We
was
can't.
originally told you said there was no federal intervention, and there is a federal intervention. So we have letters going out to Congressman Maloney.
Sure, there's federal interventions,
That's
but
not what you originally had said when Nelsonville had reached out. So this is not going any further. I appreciate all the work that you can help us with to try to move the tower. If you can meet with the powers of Homeland Towers, Nelsonville, to try to come up with another solution, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you again.
All right, thanks. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think it should be necessarily assumed that we do.
Can you come up to the mic? I'm sorry. This is,
I don't think at this point we need to, Callie Gorovic,
hi, Callie.
Cold Spring. I don't think that at this point we need to assume that there is any necessity for any cell tower in Philipstown.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, I think one of the failings on any of these tower companies when they approach this is to give documentation that proves that there's a need for these towers. These are huge moneymakers. These are not, we're coming to help you out. This is just a for-profit enterprise that they bring into the community, mar the land, and move on. And, the idea of this $60,000 a year, never, ever heard that. They were offering us, for our landfill at one point, $1,600 a month, which it doesn't matter if they're offering, $60,000 a month. We'd rather not have it. And if it has to be cited, if we go to court, we wind up losing, if it gets to that point, which we're not afraid to do, then alternative sites have to be looked at. We did look at the landfill. As I said, I had a sit-down meeting with them. Never mentioned the highway garage. The highway garage would be preferable to the cemetery, but having said that, that's an awful spot too, because that's where all the hiking trails are. That's where the vista is from this side of the mountain. So, sure.
Even if it in any way affects the hiking trails, that is a situation where people are there for 4 hours, 6 hours, maybe even 10 hours, as opposed to the cemetery site or the Vineyard Road site
People live there.
where people live 24/7,
Right.
and that is quite a difference in terms of exposure to the radio frequency.
That tower will be visible from a lot of homes along 301.
It's not just a question of visible, it's also about the radio frequency and
I'm
how.
talking about if it were sited at the highway garage.
Well, that's a
It's
good
not just
reason
gonna
not
be
to
the
have it
hikers.
there.
There's going to be, because it looks like a perfect location, then you'll have 70 people coming in and say, I can see that from
Right,
my house,
so-
and that's in my backyard.
So it's
gonna be
imperative
in
that we
somebody's backyard.
determine
Right, if they
the
determine
necessity.
it's needed, like you were saying, we're not the ones certainly that determine whether it is needed or not. Like,
Okay.
it's not at this level. We would certainly oppose it being in your yard or in the cemetery, but we don't have to say where it goes or where it doesn't go. We'll do our best to choose and to help them choose, but ultimately, I believe the FCC would come in and say,
if in fact we need it.
Right,
And
if
that
we
is
need-
one
right.
of the criteria that the FCC does respect.
right.
And it's also going to, this will have to go through a vetting process. This has to go to our zoning board. So,
And that, as I've said before, because I've talked to Callie, and I have faith in our planning board, zoning board, and conservation board to do their due diligence. That's the resource we have now. A cell tower, unfortunately, is protected under the public utility law, and that's what has to change, and I know that's being looked at on a federal level, but as you know, laws don't change that quickly, and, we're happy to work with the community on this, but we do have to follow the laws of the zoning laws and allow our boards to do their job. We can't interfere with our zoning board, our conservation board, but what we have to do is, maybe present alternative sites to Homeland. And we're happy to do that.
Homeland Towers also, that meeting said they can barely make the connection there. Now, that's an important point, because the question is how much of a problem will that be then if they're barely making the connection? So we go through this whole thing and we barely get a connection. What is that really saying? So I thought that was a very important point raised.
I've asked Nelsonville to consider the church on the hills a steeple for an antenna. I'm Tim Greco, pastor of the church on the hill. I heard the plight that there's a cemetery. I'm going to be a future resident there one day, and I don't want a cell phone tower overlooking it. But if they could use our steeple and there can be an antenna instead of a cell phone tower, we certainly will do it. And I understand there's many communities that have placed antennas inside church steeples, so we're more than welcome to help out.
Have you approached Homeland about that?
You know,
or-
I've talked to their lawyers, and they just won't get through back to us. And it wasn't about a monetary gain. I'd like to see
I
that.
want to see those phone
But
records.
I would like to, yeah, I'd actually, make it public if that's an alternative. We certainly would want to do that. I didn't know there was a monetary gain before this, but that's certainly an incentive as well. So, hey. But yeah, if it could be, if it's possible to do it and the neighbors are okay with it and there's no radio frequencies or anything connected with that, we'd be more than happy to
And
do
there
that.
are alternate technologies. They have repeaters. They just don't want to invest in these things. They put repeaters in neighborhoods, on telephone poles, in church steeples.
Right.
in
And I'd
buildings.
be more than happy to do that, so.
So yeah, and if, as you said, if there was some monetary gain for the church, all the better. Right.
Repeaters all over Manhattan.
How are you, Roger?
Hi, Roger.
To come drive you crazy at your office. I'm Roger Gorovic.
Hi, Roger.
I'm married to her. It's my question, I guess, is I understand that there's an ongoing discussion about the landfill. Certainly, it begs the question: how many do we need? Since this would give us 9 within 12 miles or something, and I think we're getting a little out of hand here. And it seems to be that there are not that many people who live here. So, if you expect our community to grow, what proportion do you really expect? We're going to go from 12,000 to 13.5? That's not going to change the cell tower issue as far as they're concerned, because there's a lot of money obviously involved. The thing that I don't understand is there's an ongoing discussion, and we're trying to negotiate whether it's the landfill or another alternative or whatever. In the meantime, 500 pages have just been submitted to the zoning board, which would beg the question, they may be talking, but that's not what they're doing on the other side. They're answering, obviously, all the questions that Chairman D asked, and then some. And I've had a little bit of a chance to go through this monster submission that they made. Whether there's errors in the thing or whatever, that's for the zoning board to decide. But it seems to me if somebody wants to negotiate somewhere else, and they put the pressure on the clock because they keep saying there's 150 days, as you said. But the 150 days, by the way, just as a comment, doesn't have to start unless you're satisfied that the total submission has been made and that all your questions have been answered, which is what Bob D. has said. Don't push us, because you haven't answered all the questions at this particular point. What I'm trying to understand is, and I know you're negotiating in good faith, I'm not sure whether they're negotiating in good faith, or whether they feel when it comes down to it, if they get denied, because obviously a lot of people are upset about this, and you've turned in your petitions, we've turned in a lot of letters to the zoning board and whatnot. I guess my question is, are we really negotiating here? Or is this just Homeland Towers spinning it out until they finally get their answer and then decide, make a determination? Are we suing the town? Are we suing whatnot if they lose? Or are we turning around and saying, okay, this was against, it would be in our interest now to go over there, and so now we'll then discuss. And I'm not sure which comes first here. That's what I'm trying to understand.
I do know with the option of referring back to the landfill, that is still an option if it came down to that. If, number one, we asked in the meeting, have you demonstrated the need for this? Because that is one of the criteria. You can't just go popping towers up because you feel like making a few extra dollars. We haven't received that data yet. So, been back with the attorney. Yeah, they're still working on it. Again, the landfill is still an alternative. As an alternative to the cemetery, if it came down to it were going to happen, we've exhausted all possibilities. We've looked at, church steeples, repeaters on poles, things like that. If it came down to we could do it at the highway garage, we wouldn't be opposed to doing it at the highway garage. But in these things, sometimes there are, no great options. Better options are keeping it away from people's homes, keeping it away from historic places like the cemetery. So I'll be on the phone with our attorney first thing tomorrow morning, talking to him, and we've had weekly discussions, regarding this. So all we can say is we'll support keeping it away from people's houses and keeping it away from the cemeteries. It would be good to pool resources with the village of Nelsonville, village of Cold Spring Town, Philipstown, because then you can bolster your legal defense fund. We have a great attorney,
I know that.
and we've successfully fought these things before and have them moved, and also they've been denied in other communities, outright denial.
One other thing, rather than be confrontational, I want to thank you all for the time that you're putting in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, and thank you for the time that you've put into it. I know you've done a lot of work, and between the congressman and all the research
We're
you've
trying
done.
to protect our community.
Yeah,
You
we
It's important.
appreciate that.
mentioned Bob D's name before. Bob D has
Is
put a
fantastic.
tremendous
Wow.
amount of.
Fantastic.
He is a true detective,
I-
and when he
Yeah,
gets
great.
his folder,
He's
and not only
wonderful.
him, but that entire zoning board.
As
working
is the
extremely
Conservation Board, I have to tell you, I mean, a lot of people are obviously taking this very seriously, and we appreciate that,
It's
so.
a challenge. It's a very challenging application.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, too, is if you listen to both information with both towers, Homeland Towers is presenting different information, and some of it's, I think, pertinent. So that's another key point. I've listened to both, I've listened to the tapes, I've wrote notes on them, and there's differences in the two presentations. So.
And now they're pitting one
And
municipality
they made
against
they made a
another.
very clear statement in Nelsonville that this board repeatedly didn't. And it was very insulting for them to say that, because that's clearly not the case. And they went on about it, and it was disappointing to say the least. So I hope that they act in good faith going forward and don't make statements like that.
Well, Bob D has caught them in several
Yeah.
statements that were absolutely false.
Inaccurate.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's amazing to watch Bob work.
Well, that's good.
He's very much on top of it.
All right, well, we'll keep on top of this, as we have all along.
Thanks again for your attention to
Thanks.
it. Thank you.
Dina?
Okay. The next item on the agenda is a resolution approving the contract for the new filing system for the Code Enforcement Office, and in an amount not to exceed $19,361.28.
Okay, Greg located this filing system, would usually cost us between $45,000 and
I have to
$50,000.
interrupt you. It was actually Bill Bajarski who located it when he was at the
Oh, did he?
Medical Arts Building and contacted Greg.
I gotta give Greg,
We
well,
owe- we
Thank
owe-
you, Bill.
we owe
thanks, Bill Bajarski. Also, thanks to Greg for following up this. We had been looking at this system to buy it outright, brand new, and they found it over at the Butterfield site. So we're gonna get it for less than half price, and it's just what we were looking for the addition we're putting on in the back. That will be in the annex. So with that, I gather the board's had time to look at this. I've met with Greg multiple times on this, spoken with the company on the phone, and now we have the proposal, $19,361.28. We knew we were gonna have to put filing in there. This thing's gonna save a ton of storage space and can be used for multiple filing systems, not just the building
The
department.
bulk of this is for the base to hold the system and also the assembly, or reassembly of it.
Right.
when we use equipment.
Yeah, because to put the thing back together,
May be a little tough.
that's not something I'm gonna do.
Reference home with direction.
So at any rate, if the board's ready, I would entertain a motion on the resolution approving the contract for the new filing system for the Code Enforcement Office.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing the release of escrow funds for Jared Delval of 117 Round Hill Road.
So Councilman Flaherty had mentioned this earlier. We do have a letter here. August 17th, Town Planning Board meeting, motion made by Kim Connor, okay, the return of the escrow to Jared DeLaval. Seconded by Peter Lewis, so if they're good with that, then I guess we should be good with that. Could I get a motion on the resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? I vote aye.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the lease agreement between the town and Pitney Bowes in the amount of $183.02 for 60 months, and this is for updating our postage meter, which we do every 60 months.
I heard the price of a stamp might be jumping up
Oh, really?
to 61 cents.
No, I didn't get any notification.
That's what I heard on the radio today.
That's a big jump.
Wow.
2 years ago, they reduced it.
Well, I guess they shouldn't have.
Brought it back up.
I'm going to buy a lot of Forever stamps.
So am I.
Can I get a motion approving the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the equipment sales contract between the town and Commercial Alarm Systems for the Dahlia House in an amount not to exceed $4,555.
Bob, anything you want to say about this?
No, I looked into this. I got this vendor who's currently doing our fire system today, so it just made sense to use them for the new addition as well. So it's going to connect to the existing system, so we don't have to put a separate system over there. Once you put the conduit between the two buildings, we'll be able to tap into the existing system for this. So this is, I said we got other quotes, but this was the best way to go.
Okay. So you're comfortable with it?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it.
All right. Well, thanks for your work on this. With that, could I get a motion on the resolution authorizing me to sign the equipment sales contract for the commercial alarm system at the Town Hall Annex? We're gonna.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you. And thanks for your work on that, Bob.
Next is a resolution approving the revised open space index dated June 2016 as submitted by the Conservation Board.
This revised open space index was the project of Nicole Padala, who, this is somebody who's just incredible at what they do already and has a really bright future in the area of environmental law and conservation. Super valuable document that we have to really start taking to heart, and it's not going to just be placed on a shelf. This is used regularly by the Conservation Board, but with her help, it has been brought up to date single-handedly. She really, got on top of this and worked on it diligently all summer. So again, I cannot thank Nicole Padala enough for, updating this. This is what is going to protect this community as far as open areas and the inventory. So it's a super.
Clearly identifies what has changed between the two periods. Obviously, as you say, identifying the natural resources. It does provide maps. It allows for, and Conservation will be actually discussing this more at the next couple of meetings, for the changes. What kind of impacts? Do we have to possibly make any changes and so forth? So it's a healthy thing to do every so many years to make sure that you're on top of development and you're watching, of course, for the town itself. Unfortunately, a number of towns around us have not heeded these things, have run out of water. You've got one county trying to get water from another county, and that's right next to us. So a development running out of water by poor planning. So these are things that are happening all around us. So these are very important for us to do, and they hold a great deal of significance for us.
What's that?
Did the land trust help with that?
This was through the Highland Land Trust, so I do want to thank them also.
Yes.
The internship was through the Highland Land Trust, so thank you, good point. I don't want to overlook that at all. But if you look at the volume of work that's in here, every parcel, every critical parcel is listed by, the tax map number. So if you go through this document, it's a ton of work to, just read through it, let alone review it and revise it. So this is the sort of thing that's going to save us when we talk about watershed protection. This is a critical document in protecting our watershed. That's something we're going to be talking about too, the Clove Creek Aquifer, because that is the water supply for the town of Philipstown, whether you know it or not. So, with that,
Kim,
yes, Kim. Do what I have to do.
She wants to pass the resolution first.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a resolution approving the revised open space index dated June 2016 as submitted by the Conservation Board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. And again, our thanks to Nicole Padala. That's a terrific amount of work, and thanks to the Highland Land Trust for sponsoring her.
I'm Kim Connor, for the record. I would like to request that the members of the planning board be given a copy of this document and the maps that are associated with it. Each of us. Thank you.
We have 5 copies right here.
Yeah, the map, but the map.
Yeah.
That's the map.
Can I just say just one thing briefly?
Certainly, come on up to the mic so we can hear you.
Hi, Michelle Smith from Hudson Highlands Land Trust. I just wanted to say, in adopting the Open Space Index, there is reference to it, obviously, in the zoning code. And it basically, it just gives guidance on the Open Space Index shall, the resource values identified in the Open Space Index shall be preserved to the maximum extent practical in any development approval. So that's what, Planning Board looks at, Conservation Board looks at. There is another very important aspect of how this may impact the zoning code in the future, which is the Open Space Overlay District, which is not the same as the Open Space Index. It's basically defined as parcels that are greater than 30 acres or more in the Open Space Index. So the current code references an open space. What you didn't just do, which is actually good, is change the Open Space Overlay District. You kept the Open Space Overlay District the same because it's still defined in the zoning code using the maps as of January of 2010 for the parcels that are above 30 acres. So the problem is if you now change that to say the Open Space Overlay was defined by the current Open Space Index 30 acres or more, what's happened is some parcels have been subdivided. So you could have a 31 acre parcel that just got subdivided into 2 acres and 29 acres, and all of a sudden it could drop from the Open Space Overlay, which you don't really want to happen. Right. So I think when you do the revision to, when the revision to comprehensive planning is done, and to the extent that the comprehensive planning now looks at the new Open Space Index and starts to think about what the Open Space Overlay District is, we need to factor in that there has the original parcels, that some of them have been subdivided, and you really don't want them to drop out of the Open Space Overlay Districts because you still want the same protections, or presumably you still want the same protections in the zoning code that you have in the Open Space Overlay District. So I just wanted to point that out. You've got an Open Space Index that's slightly different to the Open Space Overlay District because of the size of the parcels that are included in the Open Space Overlay.
Good catch. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's complicated.
I know.
Yeah. I know.
We're looking for
I never knew this could be so complicated.
we're looking for committee members for the comprehensive plan revision.
That's an excellent point.
I think you're one.
That would require some thought too. I mean, because if we're looking at 30 acres plus and suddenly you say somebody's got a 28 or a 26 acre parcel, do we, technically is it still, it's probably maybe an open legal question, but I would definitely like to get the opinion of our attorney on that.
I think one thing we could do is just look at what actually happened to the individual parcels. There's a handful that we've started to look at sort of anecdotally, where something went from 30 acres to 29, and we're like, oh, so do we make it? Could you make it 25 in the could the comprehensive planning sort of specify 25, or when you change the zoning to reflect the new Open Space Index? So I think what we need to provide you with, or with the comprehensive planning committee with, is an analysis of what dropped below 30. That we still think is quite valuable to keep in OSO.
Right. Yeah, and the one thing that we, has always been sort of foremost is these institutional properties that we're looking to protect too, because, some of these institutional lands change hands.
Been subdivided, so.
Yeah. All right, well, that would be great to take a look at that and delve into that. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing Beatty and Watson to prepare a survey for 982 Route 9D, Garrison, tax map number 71.-1-38, a gift of land.
Okay, this is for a survey of a piece of property in Garrison that the town is looking into acquiring. There's no fee involved for the town, so at any rate, I think everybody's familiar with this. We've talked about it with Rec.
We're eager to get this moving. I have some new information, and I don't know if it was discussed at our workshop, but is it something that we want to move forward with quickly, or can we hold off on it.
I think if we could just get the survey done, we'd be
Sure,
better
I
off.
agree with
It'd be
that.
good to get the
Just
survey
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No matter what.
give us a lines of what we're dealing with. That's
Okay.
property's tough between them all, it's kind of tough to distinguish. So that would be a good step, I
Yeah,
think.
good, again, it's,
Yeah, good to get the information.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right, with that, could I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Okay, the next item, a resolution authorizing the Highway Department to auction off surplus equipment through Auction International. We've done this before.
Several times we take our older vehicles or older pieces of equipment that may still have some value to someone, but we feel are not worth investing in any longer, and we auction them off.
Some beauties on this.
We've got, I mean, excuse me, just driven to church by a little old lady on Sunday.
Been plowing snow since 1975.
I'm looking for a
My
Ford.
grandfather used that. We do have several pieces of equipment on here, a beautiful 2001 Ford F-550, a 94 Chevy one-ton,
Come on, look at that one.
an 89 Ford
75.
75 Mac.
I want that one.
That's it.
Well, you're gonna have to get in line
Two backhoes.
because we got people beating the door down for
A
these.
Minneapolis Moline tractor.
These are doorbuster deals, so get up there quick. At any rate, we would like to authorize the highway super to get rid of some of this stuff, make space. We are constantly trying to upgrade our fleet up there. That's been an initiative that's been going on for the past 10 years. This equipment gets used a lot, and we do need it for the roads and highways, so anybody interested can contact the highway department.
I want that Mack truck.
You should get that Mack truck.
Just
Can I-
the money, the funds that we get from this, does this go back to the highway department, or does it
Goes
go back
back
to our
into the
general?
highway equipment line.
It does, okay.
Yes.
Could put
So
a
I offset
magnet on the side
future
so it's got
purchases. We're not talking about a lot of money, generally, with the things.
See.
If it doesn't go at auction, it goes to scrap, and we take the money from scrap and put that back into. Could I get a motion on a resolution
So moved.
authorizing? All right, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye, thanks.
Okay, the next is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the agreement between the town and Michael P. Carr for engineering services for the proposed elevator and staircase renovations to the town hall. And part of that is he would prepare drawing assistance and direction as listed in the scope above for $4,100. Final payment will be due upon completion of direction conveyance to you. And should any additional work be required, such as sub-pool foundation drawings, I will be available at my hourly rate of $150 per hour.
Okay, Mike Carr is a swell egg, along with being a great engineer. He's helped out, I don't know how many people in this town, and helped us out on numerous occasions. We've had a couple of meetings with him. This is to forward our effort to get the elevator in Town Hall. This is going to happen. It's been a long road, but now we're in a position financially where we can finally start investing in this building. And once we finish the annex and back, get the building department moved in there, that'll free up the space that we need to rearrange the staircase, put in handicap bathrooms here, get an elevator in, and finally join the 21st century. So we are really looking forward to that. There'll be other initiatives that are happening. We're preparing the window spec for this building right now to go out to bid. We'll be meeting with the Village Historic Review Board to show them that spec before it goes out to bid. They're going to be the identical windows that are in this building right now. We got actually a pretty good price on that, and we do have a grant for that. We do also have some grant money for this elevator that we attained with the assistance of Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff. So she's been a great help to us this year and in the past always, but this year especially with getting us grant money. She did get us $100,000 for the sidewalk project in the village, which just completely did not work out. But that money is being applied to a highway project now to the Manitou Station Road, which is a project we're going to proceed with if the DEC ever lets us allow them with the permits. I don't know what the holdup is there, but I'm going to find out. But with that, we do want to meet with Mike Carr again, get these drawings going, and move forward on the elevator project. So if I could get a motion on the authorization to sign this agreement with Mike Carr Services for the proposed elevator and staircase renovation to this building town hall.
Add a little bit, obviously.
Go right ahead,
I
Jim.
mean, we have the plans, the architectural drawings are done by Justin Caker, Highland Architect. So this is the engineering side of what Justin has drawn. There will be no visible changes from the outside
No.
to this building, other than improving
Maybe
the
a
stuff
paint-
that is
paint
there.
job.
But yeah, a little bit of cream on the cream puff here. But the inside you'll be a dramatic change inside. So, but outside will look exactly the same. So I just wanted to add that.
We don't want to gild the lily here, you know? We are going to get rid of this door and turn that back into a window, since we do have the egress here,
You'll have
yes.
an egress there, and you'll also have a larger,
Staircase.
more appropriate staircase. to
Yeah,
get
much
out
more
of this
accommodating
and
there.
an elevator.
I mean, it's going to be a vast improvement to this room, all in all, so, visually and functionally. Could I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye, thank you.
The next item is a resolution appointing Ann Gallagher as a full-time special service clerk beginning September 5th, 2017.
This is nunc-pro-tunc. We needed Ann to come in and help out. Unfortunately, Dottie Turner has been in the hospital, and we wish her a speedy recovery. Everybody loves Dottie deeply, so we hope to see her back soon. Ann has been floating and helping us on a lot of departments. Ann's a 20-year veteran of the town and has assisted us in many ways. And we do have department heads downstairs that are begging for help, so this will be a good addition, getting Ann in here to help out all around. Any comments from the board?
No, I'm happy to do this.
All right, then maybe you want to make the motion.
Sure, I'll so move.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Any opposed? And it is unanimous for Ann.
Okay, the next is the Code Enforcement Monthly Report. $26,793.50 were the fees collected. 28 permits were issued, 7 additions, alteration, or repairs to residential buildings, 21 all other permits, pools, sheds, decks, plumbing, HVAC, etc., 19 COs issued, 2 work stop orders issued, 2 inspections of public assembly, and 3 inspections of commercial occupancies. And he noted on the bottom that the village building department merger continues to improve.
Yeah, I mean, that, points toward the possibility for mergers with other things. This is working out really well. I mean, we eased into it, and it seems to be working really well. And my thanks to Dave Morandi, mayor of the village, for working so closely with us to attain this.
Now, I also had his report for the village of Cold Spring. So fees collected were $745, 5 permits were issued, 4 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 1 all other permits, pools, sheds, decks, plumbing, HVAC, etc. 5 COs were issued, 1 operating permit issued. Year-to-date, fees collected $10,544.
I think one of the great things about having Greg in the building department is that his ability to work with people has just created a more inviting atmosphere, and I think we're getting a lot more applications because people are no longer doing things without permits. They feel comfortable coming in and getting the permit. Greg works well with the public, got nothing but positive feedback so far, and I think he just brings a wealth of experience. His whole approach to the commercial inspections in the village, with going in and saying you're going to need an operating permit, and that'll cover your commercial inspection for the year. That's going to really serve the village well, because I know they were falling behind on commercial inspections.
I have one additional item.
Yes.
Okay, it's a request from the Highway Department. A resolution is needed to purchase a Buffalo turbine attachment for the Bobcat, and they did receive 2 proposals. Both came in at the same amount, and when I spoke to Maureen, she said they want to accept Bobcat.
Well, Bobcat's a well-known name, that's for sure. If that's a recommendation, I'd be inclined to go with it. I did speak to Carl about this 2 weeks ago, and he said he was going out looking for one. So
The machine that they're putting this on, is it a Bobcat as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so it makes sense to go with the same thing.
Could I get a motion on the resolution authorizing the Highway Department to purchase a Buffalo turbine attachment for the Bobcat?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. I also have one addition here. I don't know if we can sneak something in. Tina's giving me the stink eye. This is just regards to the meeting we had with Rec last night. I can give you a little supporting documentation. This is about the coaches' training, certification, and background checks. As was mentioned earlier in Councilman Van Tassel's report, we met last night with the Rec Committee. It's their feeling that we should, demand that coaches get some training. A lot of this has to do with the way you talk to kids and the way you behave around kids, which, is common sense, but there's a lot of psychology involved here. There's also a lot of a big skill set. We did have an offer to provide this training for free, so that's going to be the preferred program, the one we can get for free. There is alternative programs. These alternative programs, as cited in here, could be sport-specific, but also would have to have some component regarding safe practice protocol, concussion injury awareness, repetitive use injuries, things like that. All coaches who are paid or volunteer with the Town of Philipstown Recreation Department must participate in an approved coaches training course. The Philipstown Recreation Department is requiring a training program for all its coaches, and the preferred program of the Recreation Commission is Fit to Coach. Any alternative programs must be presented and approved by a review committee comprised of 2 representatives from the Recreation Commission and the Director of Recreation. Any alternative program must be nationally recognized and meet the following criteria. Alternative programs may be sport-specific, cover general practices regarding safe practice protocol, concussion, injury awareness, and recognition of appropriate coaching behavior, overuse prevention, communicating, dealing with parents, spectators, and good sportsmanship. So if I could get a motion on a resolution that would approve this coach's training certification background check for a period of 2 years, that's what the training would cover. And this is going to include the directors and anyone who coaches at Rec. Could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. This was also voted on unanimously by the Rec Commission, and it was their recommendation to the town board. So thanks for all the work on that to the Rec Commission.
And coaching is a really fun way to volunteer in the community. If anybody's interested, the Rec Department is always looking for coaches. Right now, they're looking for a couple of new soccer coaches. Basketball season is coming, baseball season for Little League.
You do need coaches.
We do need coaches. Our kids need good coaches.
We also need a parent program to teach the parents how to behave.
Well, teach them how to behave at
No.
games.
Come on. Not our parents.
Not our parents, it's the other parents.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to call out South Salem.
Sorry,
North Salem.
I failed at that. I could never get that
It's
emotionally
bad.
invested
You
in
got to go
in
to
the
some
games.
of these games. It is so bad.
I feel left out. Maybe I have low T.
I'm afraid to go to these games sometimes.
Well, that has nothing to do with the parents.
No, well, the other teams, I have to wear my body armor.
Oh, boy. As far as scheduling workshops, I think we should get together next Wednesday and meet with Highway to forward the building effort there, and then talk about this building again. By then, I'm hoping to have the window bid spec from Ron Gaynor, and so we can take a look at that. We do have a good idea of where that's headed price-wise, but we're going to make some decisions about timing and things like that. So could we meet next Wednesday?
Sure.
All right, let's get that on the calendar.
7:30.
7:30, yes. Does anyone have anything else?
With the, oh, I'm sorry, where's she yelling at?
His name's not Mike, it's John.
That's Mike.
With the threat of the current storm coming, there's a possibility that we might see it. So I reached out to a few people today. I spoke with Amber last night. Our generator is at the rec center was serviced yesterday. Its fuel's at 78%, so it'll run for quite a bit of time on that. So. Yes, I spoke with the North Highlands Fire District about use of the room for the local emergency coordination center. That has been confirmed. Ralph Falloon is also ready to go and getting the equipment back together again, and hopefully we don't have to use it. I contacted Haldane. The emergency alert system is at our disposal. We can use it anytime we need to, which gets a message out to everybody that's in the Haldane community. We also have, I've reached out to Garrison again. We've had a prior commitment with the Garrison School, but I just wanted to firm that up, make sure it's good. The Red Cross trailers are sitting at the rec department with supplies for 500 people, so, I mean, whether they stay there, I'm surprised they are still there, but we do have supplies that are guaranteed to stay at the rec department as well, though. So, and our rec department is a certified Red Cross shelter at this point. I'm also reaching out to the new Director of Emergency Services through our emergency coordinator, Ralph Falloon, because we were close with Anthony to getting that Central Hudson representative in our emergency coordination center, and we think it could go a long way if, I mean, all of his customers are in Philipstown, and he's sitting or she's sitting in an office in Carmel when these events happen. If we had direct contact with the Central Hudson rep, which most of the time the problems are surrounding wires and power. So we're really going to push this guy to push him over to us, so we'll see what happens. I thought with Anthony we were on our way to getting him, but yeah.
Well, Ken's a good guy. He'll listen.
Yeah, I'm sure. And he seemed to think it was more Central Hudson's decision. But if they endorse that, you know, we have this emergency center set up, that, you know, it's going to be there, then maybe he'll, you know, commit to coming to us then. So I think we're as prepared as we need to be. I'm sure there's a million other things we could do. But.
I mean, and sorry, and thanks, Mike, for bringing it to our attention again today. And I talked to Amber as well, and she's on board. And Barbara, if you could reach out to the county to keep us informed. In the past, I've reached out to them and asked us to alert us when their emergency meetings are. Usually they get together ahead of time, and we'd like to be included on those calls. I think everybody on the board should be included. They all have our information, and you know, it's just something in the past that did not happen, and I've been requesting it, you know, after each event, if we can really get on board. And Amber brought up a good point again today. You know, we're well equipped. You know, we've proven that in the past with our past storms, but I think at this year's reorg meeting, let's just set 2 meetings a year in stone for revisiting and talking about our emergency preparedness, you know.
We spoke about doing a drill in it. We never got
Drills-
to. A drill would be good.
But even if, you know, we meet, say, you know, after the events to talk about what went wrong and you know, sort of codify what we've done that went right. And, you know, we know that we did it pretty well the last few times. The county even pointed us out to say what a good job we did with very little resources. No resources.
Scrappy bunch here.
Well, also, to a personal note, also, it takes the efforts of everybody in the town to think about what's happening down south. This is going to be an unusual hurricane season, it appears. These storms are devastating. I mean, I hear from some contractors that have gone down to Houston, who are giving information to people that stayed too long. Write your social security number on your arm because we can't come in. You know, so that's how dramatic some things are. Some areas have been actually flooded in order to relieve pressures from other areas. We live in a gorgeous town here, but it's a dangerous town for storms. More than half our town is steep slopes. If we don't heed the warning, all that water coming down, the mud, the trees will block these roads quickly. You have to go at least no later than voluntary evacuation. You know, listening to people dying still in Houston, and I hope we don't hear that in Florida, because you're hearing the West Coast say, well, it's going to happen on the East Coast, so I don't have to go. To heed the warning and leave ahead of time. And don't, because the difficulty, you're putting emergency services people right in the harm's way to have to try to come in for you and so forth, and there is a point where you can't. I have been in this situation. An unplanned storm had happened to me. I had to watch water rise. It is an extremely scary situation. You have no place to go. It happens quick. It's even worse when it's flooding at night because you don't see anything happening. Don't, please, if anything else, just heed the warnings and leave if we were to be hit. These storms are Category 5s. This town was devastated with a tropical storm, Irene. That's nothing compared to these. So please, heed the warnings of these. Watch what's happening. They could bounce right off of Florida and then bounce up the coast and hit New York City directly, and we will be directly affected. People on the waterfronts, Cold Spring, Garrison Landing, Hudson River homes, they'll all be affected. The Hudson River will take all that surge water coming in from the ocean. So you're really in harm's way. So you have to really pay attention to that. And don't be prepared possibly to go back for a little while. Take those essential things that you have to have with you because you may be gone for a while. Gas up the car, money. Don't rely on the credit cards. You may be finding yourself upstate New York for a little while and not being able to return. Areas are kept also from you not being able to go back for certain reasons as well, not just safety, but looting and so forth. So you may be out a while. Some of these barrier islands in New Jersey and so forth, in New York, people couldn't get on for a month or better. That's a long time to not know what happened to your house. So, heed the warnings and realize these things happen fast and they're devastating. And we need to work together in order to make sure that this town doesn't lose anybody.
Thanks, Mike. We're hoping that this storm doesn't come up to New York. Certainly we won't be seeing anything like they're seeing down south. So
There are ways to be prepared.
there
Plenty
are
of
ways.
plenty of websites, Prepared in New York.
Yeah.
We did host a preparedness meeting, and Nancy and I and the woman from Red Cross were the only three that attended. So we were all there waiting, but nobody showed. But all that's available online. You can find out what you should have, and so get out there and reach
Be
out.
prepared yourselves. Don't wait around for us to come and get you, and check on your neighbors, your elderly neighbors, and your less fortunate neighbors.
My father used to say, fill the bathtub.
I do that. I do it every snowstorm. I have no generator.
It's for flushing the toilet.
Too noisy.
Well, our thoughts and prayers are with all the people who have been affected by these storms in Texas and will be affected, in the United States all over. So they've got it a lot worse than we've ever had it up here. So, but do be prepared. Last month, I had talked about, we had a meeting about approving a joint planning board as lead agency for this hotel project across the river. I did write that letter to them. It was CC'd to all the agencies that were involved in this. So it went to New York State Department of Transportation, Orange County Department of Health, the Palisade Interstate Park, Putnam County Clerk, Orange County Planning. Just, short and to the point. I don't know if anybody wants to see it, they can take a look at it. But it addressed our concerns as far as environmental impacts, traffic concerns, and light pollution, and affecting our view shed. So I did follow up on that. I also did send an email out to Europa McGovern, who's heading up the Climate Smart Communities Initiative, inviting her to a meeting. I'll let you know when she's available. But we'll get her here, and I think we got to keep on top of that also. So, anything else from the board? Anything from the audience? Okay. Vacancies. We have, for the first time ever, 0 vacancies. Wow. All right, Philipstown, way to step up. Approval of vouchers, general.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Highway.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Water District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I just don't want people to get the wrong impression. We go through this, all these vouchers are reviewed by multiple people. I mean, they're signed so many times. I see every one of these vouchers. The board goes through them on the pre-board. Things are pulled out. When we go ahead and approve these, they've already been fully vetted. So don't get the impression we're just rubber stamping things, because we're not. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.